Hello everyone and welcome to Onshape tutorials. In this tutorial we explain how to start with assembly modeling in Onshape. And here is a basic example that we will create in this video tutorial. It consists of two parts. The parts are shown over here. First of all we have this base part and then we have this rotating handle. Once we assemble everything, you will obtain this nice rotating example where the handle rotates around this joint over here. Okay, let's start with modeling. Once you log into Onshape, you will see this welcome screen. Then click on Create, Document, and call the document as you wish. I will call it as Doc3. Before we start with modeling, I will first briefly explain how to zoom and pan the view as well as how to rotate the view. To zoom the view, use the middle or the roller mouse button and roll it forward and backward. To pan the view, simply press and hold the middle or the roller mouse button and move the mouse left, right, up and down. To rotate the view, press and hold right mouse button and the middle mouse button and you will be able to rotate the view. You can also rotate the view by using this cube over here. Okay, let's start with the creation of our first part. That is the creation of base. For that purpose, make sure that you select the front plane, then click here on Sketch and make sure that the sketch is active. You can move the sketch window over here. Then you can actually click here to see the top of the front plane. Then let's create a simple rectangle. Here you can click and then you can select center point rectangle, click over here and let's create a rectangle. And now press Escape to exit the rectangle mode. Next, let's adjust the dimensions of this rectangle. To do that, click on Dimension tool. Click here, expand, and then enter 100 over here. Then click here, oops, I made an error, let's repeat that, click here, here, and then enter 100 and press enter. Okay, now you can press Escape to exit the rectangle mode. The next step is to create a circle. To do that, click on Center Point Circle, click here, and create a simple circle. And press Escape. Let's adjust the dimensions of this circle. Click here, and let's specify dimensions 35 over here. Good. Press Escape to exit the circle creation mode. Next, let's extrude this shape. But before you do that, make sure that you click here, and then you can click here to see the isometric view. Next, to extrude, simply click here, then click here, and now let's adjust the extrude dimension. Let's go with, for example, 30. Okay, and then click over here. Next, click here, do the right click and rename. Let's call this base. This is our first part. And over here, optionally, you can also adjust the color or the appearance. By clicking here, doing a right click, you can actually edit appearance and then you can select any color you wish. I'm going to use, for example, this color and click over here. And voila, this is our first part. This is our base. The next step is to create the handle. To create the second part, simply click on the front plane, then again on Sketch, and the second sketch will be created. Then click here on front such that you see this sketch from the top view. We want to create a circle. To create a circle, again, click over here and then create a circle, for example, over here. Press Escape, adjust the dimensions by clicking here, here, and then specify 35 as the dimension. Now what happened over here is that the circle actually moved. And we don't want that. We need to move the circle down. Press Escape first. To move the circle, simply click on the center of the circle and move the center down, and this will move, or better to say, translate the circle. Then click here to accept the changes and click here to go back in the isometric view. The next step is to extrude this circle and to start creating our handle. To do that, simply select the circle, then click here, extrude, and make sure that new is selected. New means that we want to create a new part. And over here, adjust the depth of the extrusion, specify -150, minus sign will actually change the extrusion direction, and press enter. And click here to accept changes. And over here in the parts menu, you will see the second part. Let's click here, do the right click, rename this part as handle and press enter. Then again, do the right click, edit appearance and select the color. I'm going to select this purple color and click here. And here it is. This is the first part of our handle. Let's continue. Next, we want to create the top of the handle. So simply click on this face and then click on sketch, and this will assign the sketch to this face. Now click here back to see everything from the top, and let's create the top. To create the top, click here and click on corner rectangle and simply create a rectangle which will be the top of the handle. Here it is, for example. You can later on adjust the dimensions. Here, for simplicity, I will use these arbitrary dimensions. Press escape to exit and then click here to accept the changes. Now go back in the isometric view by clicking over here. The next step is to extrude this rectangle. Here's one very important thing to keep in mind while performing the extrusion process. Namely, the extruded object should be assigned to the handle part. So let's learn how to do that. First of all, click here on this part that is on the rectangle, then click on extrude. And here immediately you can see several issues. First of all, we are not extruding the cylinder portion. The program thinks that we want to create the extruded part with the hole, and this is the error. We don't want to do that, right? So click here on add to make sure that we are actually adding to the existing part, right? And then make sure that you also select this face over here. Or you can simply first click here, select this face, then select the other part of rectangle, and now everything is being extruded. However, now I'm going to move this extrusion window over here, and then you need to merge with the object because we are adding here and we need to select the object. Here you need to first of all click on a merge scope and click here, and you will see that the extruded part becomes purple. This means that we have properly assigned the extruded part to our cylinder, and click here and voila, that's it. Now when the handle is selected, you can see that both cylinder and this extruded rectangle are selected. The next step is to create the assembly. There are several ways to do that. One approach is to click here and to start creating assembly. However, I prefer to create a new tab for assembly, so click here and then you can click on create assembly and you can see assembly 2 is created. Let's start inserting the parts. Click here on the insert button and then select the base, and over here you can move the base as you wish. For example, let's place the base here, then click on handle and place the handle over here. Okay, then click here and let's continue. The first step is to introduce a fixed constraint. That is, we want to fix our base. To do that, simply select the base, do the right click and find fix. And now you can see over here that the base is being fixed. Good. The next step is to add this constraint, revolute constraint. Okay, so click here, then click on this outer edge over here of the cylinder, and then click over here And here it is. Now to verify everything, you can click on this play button and you will see that everything can be rotated, or you can click on solve. Next, if you click here, you can introduce the limits. For example, if you want the rotation to be from 0 to 80 degrees, here you can introduce these limits. I'm not going to introduce the limits. You can also click here on offsets if you want to change the displacement. That is, if you want to displace the cylinder up or down. We don't want to do that. Let's click here on play to make sure that everything works. Click on solve and click here, and that's it. Now if you rotate the view and if you take the handle and if you try to move it, you will be able to rotate the handle around this joint, and that's it. Simple as that. Okay, that's all for today, and thanks for watching.